A bombshell in the world of Barça. A terrifying earthquake shakes Camp Nou like a roar that cuts through every stand, every cool heart, every Blaugrana soul. Today, what's rocking the football world isn't a stunning goal, a heroic victory, or even a refereeing controversy. What we're facing is a rumor that could well become the most painful wound for Barça's future. Pep Guardiola, the prodigy who once gave us eternal glory, the coach who defined an era, now appears on the other side, backed by the power of oil money, the endless wealth of Manchester City, and the ambition to rebuild after an irregular season, with a goal as clear as it is terrifying. That goal has a name: Gavi. Yes, the prodigy, the gladiator of the pitches, the kid who, at just 20 years old, has become the symbol and heartbeat of FC Barcelona. If you're an unconditional Barça fan, subscribe now and leave your comment. Do you think Gavi would be capable of leaving with Guardiola, or would he never turn his back on us? And the question echoes louder than the ovation of a packed Camp Nou. How would Barcelonismo react if Gavi, our warrior, decided to leave with Guardiola? What would it mean to see the player who embodies grinta, youthful fire, and the pride of La Masia under the command of the coach who left over a decade ago but has never stopped watching us from afar? The rumor is simple but lethal. Guardiola has already secured something more intimate, more fundamental than any million-dollar check: Gavi's word. That supposed signal that the player would listen to the proposal of a project designed to make him the immediate heir to Kevin De Bruyne. City is wounded. Yes, because last season, they fell further than Guardiola would ever have accepted. They lost titles, lost hunger, lost magic. Now, they want to rejuvenate the engine room. And among all the names, one shines in his mind: Gavi, the only one capable of biting, running, shocking, competing like a beast, and lifting an entire team with a sliding tackle or a roar of rage. That Barça DNA, Guardiola knows it better than anyone, and now he intends to rip it out and plant it in his English garden. The horrible part isn't just the possibility that this could happen, it's what it represents. Gavi isn't just any midfielder. He's the symbol of resistance in times of scarcity. He's the most devoted face of a Barça fighting against debt, sanctions, and limitations. He's the prototype of the footballer who embodies the spirit of Puyol, the heart of Xavi, the intensity of Iniesta. Taking him from Barça isn't just recruiting a player, it's trying to tear out a piece of our identity. And Guardiola, more than anyone, knows it. Rumors of a swap deal with City players add even more spice. Word is that in England, they'd be willing to let go of 2 established stars to smooth the operation. But what good is being offered gold-wrapped players if what they really want is to take away your raw diamond? You don't negotiate with symbols. You don't play with the heart of Barcelonismo. This isn't just a market battle. It's an emotional, passionate, political one. It's Guardiola trying to reopen the wound of a club that hasn't yet woken from its long lethargy. And then comes the most dreaded doubt: how will Gavi react? He's just overcome a serious injury. He's in the midst of reintegrating into the Kuhl dynamic, with Xavi already gone and a Barça trying to rebirth itself. Could such a young guy be tempted by Guardiola's promise of $1 million contract in a Premier League that every young player dreams of? The uncertainty is terrifying, but it also awakens pride. Because if there's one thing Gavi has shown, it's that he feels and breathes Barça in every moment. But modern football is cruel, and betrayal always lurks like a silent shadow. Here, we say it straight: no one should be mistaken. To etch yourself into Barça's history, it's not enough to play well. You have to stay, resist, fight against temptation. Guardiola can insist. City can surround the house with money. But Barcelonismo won't allow its new captain, even without the armband, to be torn away. Gavi isn't just a player. He's a roar, a kick into the void that fills every second he steps on the pitch. Talking about Gavi is talking about a kid who, at just 16, pulled on the Barça shirt in official matches, defying the logic of his age. The Kuhl midfield seemed like a fragile ecosystem, but he burst in like a whirlwind, pumping life into the veins, lifting the fans, and clashing with giants as if he'd been in the elite for decades. The fans found in him something they hadn't seen in a long time: ferocity, that wildness that turns minutes into wars and battles into revenge. Because Gavi doesn't just play football. Gavi fights for every ball as if his whole life depends on it. And that, when you see him in Blaugrana, touches you in places that modern football had numbed. Barcelonismo has rediscovered the pride of seeing that La Masia doesn't just produce exquisite talents like PEDRI, LAMINE, and YAMAL, but also warriors. In the midst of an economic crisis, in a debt-ridden, worn-out Barça, Gavi burst in like proof that there's still purity in La Masia. A neighborhood kid with an iron will, screaming every time he wins the ball back. His symbolic weight is immense. He represents the bridge between the old guard, the one forged by Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets, and the new Barça, which is trying to survive amid rivals doped by infinite checks. For the fans, Gavi isn't transferable. He doesn't move. You don't touch him. Talking about him in terms of an exotic recruitment to England is simply insulting, but it's precisely this importance that makes him Guardiola's target. Pep has always wanted footballers who mix touch with blood, possession with grit, and today, Gavi embodies that duo better than anyone. In Barcelona, seeing him chase the ball means feeling that there's still hope on the pitch. Taking him to City would be depriving Barça of that feeling of a future. Gavi isn't just a player, he's the soul of a club that refuses to die. And if Guardiola wants him, he'll have to pry him from the hands of a fanbase that sees him as untouchable. The question isn't just whether Gavi will leave, it's whether Barça can afford to lose the one thing that makes it feel alive again. Now, who can deny there's a danger? Gavi is very young, he's at the beginning of everything, and around him shine the millions of England like a diabolical temptation. They want him to build the next decade. If there's one thing this business has taught us, it's that when Guardiola and City's money set their sights on someone, the battle isn't simple. English football is today the cathedral of money and prestige. It's not just about colossal salaries, it's the global exposure, the guaranteed Champions League every season, the competitiveness of a league that never stops. For Gavi, who has experienced everything so quickly, the siren song can be devastating. Manchester City, beyond its recent irregularity, remains one of the most powerful projects on the planet. Guardiola isn't just any coach, he's a detail-obsessed strategist capable of convincing anyone that they'll reach the top under his guidance. What player wouldn't want to learn from the coach who revolutionized modern football? What 20-year-old wouldn't feel flattered that Pep sees him as the natural heir to his new midfield? City, moreover, is undergoing a transformation. De Bruyne is gone. Bernardo is in his final phase, and they need young energy to dominate in the engine room. Gavi would fit surgically into this puzzle. Add to that the fact that in the Premier League, contracts are massive, and any footballer multiplies their value. Here, the temptation is huge. Prestige, money, and Guardiola's paternal tact. A whole cocktail that makes Barcelonismo nervous. Because even though we know Gavi loves this crest, the cold reality is that Barça currently lacks the economic muscle and stability that England guarantees. This fragility turns the club into coveted prey. The image is devastating. Seeing Gavi fight, but not at Montjuic or the future Camp Nou, but at the Etihad surrounded by Haaland, Rodri, and company. A nightmare we cannot allow. Pep Guardiola has a relationship with Barça that no other figure in history has had. He was the architect of the Golden Age, but that same aura is what generates the most fear today. When Pep looks at Barça, he never does so from a neutral distance. He does it knowing that what is being formed here is pure gold for his ideas. This has happened before. Didn't he try to lure other homegrown players? Guardiola always keeps an eye on La Masia because he knows that's where the exact profile he needs is being prepared. And although many Cules revere him for the memories, we cannot forget that Pep now represents a club that plays under a different banner, a different ambition, and a different wallet. Seeing his shadow pursue Gavi is almost poetic. The rebellious student wanting to take away the jewel, the symbol of modern Barça. It's a dirty game, but also brilliant. What better way to weaken Barça than by recruiting its emotional leader? Guardiola isn't naive. He knows a footballer like Gavi doesn't just bring performances, he strikes at the very heart of the fans who lose him. That's the Cule tragedy, dealing with a figure who gave us everything but now appears with an outstretched hand to snatch away what we hold most precious. A giant shadow, a ghost that never leaves. And today, that shadow looms directly over Gavi. Here's another of the bitterest keys. Today's Barça is no longer that powerful club capable of standing firm and telling the world, "Here, we don't sell anything." No, this Barça lives conditioned by numbers, by debts, by financial restrictions, and unfortunately, everyone knows it, every shark in the market knows it. Even if Gavi's release clause is enormous, even if official statements say he's untouchable, the reality is there will always be attempts to exploit Cule needs. Manchester City can offer millions, can even offer players, and knows Barca's treasury is in trouble. How far can the board resist without selling key pieces? The Cule fan lives with a new fear. It's not the fear of losing matches, or suffering from refereeing, or sporting declines. It's the fear that numbers rule. And this fear makes rumors like this one resonate with greater force. And if Guardiola strikes right at the weak spot, and if the offer is too tempting for a board walking a financial tightrope, what hurts the most is that while other clubs sell players for record sums to reinvest, at Barça, rumors always have a whiff of necessity, not of brilliant deals, but of urgency. And this transforms rumors like Gavi's into knives that, repeated enough, can end up piercing Cule resistance. Gavi, of course, is worth much more than money, but in times of crisis, no symbol is safe from the temptation of cash, and City knows it. The rumors coming from England are clear. Manchester City wouldn't just be willing to pay a fortune for Gavi. They've even already put on the table the possibility of loaning or exchanging players to soften Barca's stance. And here begins the media butchery, because the names flying around always seem to shine, always tempting, but the truth is different. What can we expect from these supposed exchanges? Prestigious players, yes, established footballers who could fit into any team in Europe, but who represent nothing of what Gavi means to this club. Let's set the scene. What does Barca gain by receiving two stars who arrive tired, who don't feel the colors, who would only come as an immediate solution? That's the trap. That's how City wants to disguise a monumental theft as a fair deal. They'll probably talk about technical midfielders, brilliant wingers, renowned defenders, but we all know what the operation hides: delivering youth, commitment, Cule DNA, and the symbol of the future in exchange for illusions. What's the point of bringing in two media-friendly signings if it means losing the engine of the new generation? It would be like trading the Messiah of Grinta for second-hand reinforcements. Moreover, City knows how to play this card. They have a team full of top-level players, some even in excess due to wealth. They can afford to offer two pieces to recruit the most coveted jewel. That's the brutal inequality. While at Barca every euro costs blood, in Manchester, money falls like rain. And what should outrage Cules the most is that in the logic of these rumors, they intend to put Gavi on the scale as if he were exchangeable. And no, he isn't. A guy trained here, already named Golden Boy, who carries in his gestures the legacy of Puyol and the rebellion of Luis Enrique, cannot be a bargaining chip. You can sell any player at any time, but not the one who represents resistance in times of storm. City will offer its candies, yes, but the reality is brutal. No exchange balances out what losing Gavi would mean. The fans know this, and that's why the rumor burns so much. And if Gavi really listened to Guardiola? And if he decided, deep down, to take that treacherous step? Here, we're not just talking about football, we're talking about emotions. No one at Barca, in recent history, embodies that spirit of desperate struggle like he does. Seeing him leave wouldn't just be like losing a player, it would feel like the trust between La Masia, the club, and the fans is broken. In Gavi, Cules see the reincarnation of a glorious past. He's not a technical footballer like PEDRI, nor a budding genius like LAMINE. He's pure Grinta, the guy who never gives up, who bites, who lives indignant at every defeat, and who doesn't hide it, not even in training. Seeing him in another jersey would be like seeing a brother fight for another family, a wound so deep it would never heal easily. The emotional factor also comes from the memory of other players who were tempted but never left because they understood what it meant to be Cule. That pressure will surround Gavi. He can't take this step without risking being branded a traitor in the club's history. He can't weigh money against passion, and he knows it. However, modern football is full of cases where loyalty wavers. The other side of the coin is the fan. What would they do if it happened? Montjuic would never forgive. The stands would never forgive, because selling is one thing, but understanding there's a need is another. But a personal decision, a yes to Guardiola, would be pure dynamite. The Barca fan is tired of goodbyes. Neymar, Messi, Griezmann, even stars from other eras. The wound never fully heals. And now, when we need a young symbol to remind us that we fight to the death, imagining Gavi in sky blue would be too harsh a blow. Without a doubt, there's much more at stake than money. It's about emotion, the invisible bond between the club and the player. GTA 2. If you're a Cule at heart, subscribe and answer in the comments. Would you forgive Gavi if he left with Guardiola, or would he be marked as the Judas of modern Barcelonismo? And now, we must ask ourselves something. Where does all this smoke, this rumor-turned wildfire, come from? Exactly, from the press that never sleeps and always seeks to destabilize Barça. Because the Madridista press, the one that has celebrated our failures more than its own triumphs for years, has found a goldmine in this rumor. They inflate, exaggerate, and dramatize because they know that for every cule, this topic hurts more than 1,000 defeats. This isn't neutral gossip, it's not objective information, it's a weapon of media war. It's used to undermine the confidence of the youth, to pressure the board, to divide the fans. Hasn't this happened before? Every time a La Masia gem emerges, the media machine tries to put them in the shop window, like with Messi in his time, with Ansu Fati, with Pedri. Now, the target is Gavi. The game is clear. If Barça is painted as a club in crisis, unable to retain its stars, its global power erodes. And if, on top of that, the player's destination is Guardiola City, the story becomes a perfect novel. Betrayal, drama, money, morbo, everything they need to sell headlines and clicks. That's why the cule must stay on high alert. Not all rumors are true, but all of them leave scars, and the enemy press knows it. Even if the transfer doesn't happen, they've already succeeded in disrupting the peace, sparking internal debates, and piling pressure on Gavi. This rumor isn't just about football. It's the war of narratives that Barça has endured for years, where every success is minimized and every flaw becomes an abyss. And though it hurts, the Gavi case is the latest chapter in this systematic campaign. We must look back to understand that not all is lost, because cule history is full of great players who were tempted to leave but stayed to become legends. Messi, who for years endured insane offers from England, decided to resist. Iniesta had opportunities to go abroad but chose the love of the club. Even Xavi himself almost left when he was young but chose to stay and became the greatest compass in our history. That's exactly what Gavi must remember. Legends aren't made by leaving for Manchester with a lucrative contract. Legends are made by staying, resisting, and becoming part of the club's soul. And though we know modern football is more fragile, examples of loyalty still exist. The difference with Gavi is that he's just beginning. He has his whole life ahead of him, and the choice he makes now will be decisive. He can become the new symbol of Blaugrana loyalty or add his name to the list of betrayals we never forget. Barcelonismo needs to remember these stories because they are the shield against despair. If others resisted, he can too. When we think about what Barça means, we don't immediately think of trophies or financial statements. The first thing that comes to mind is the image of Camp Nou, that cement temple that has become an immortal symbol of emotions. Even though reality forces us to play at Montjuic while our stadium is rebuilt, we all know the essence hasn't moved an inch. The cule passion lives with unmatched intensity, and Gavi is one of those rare players who has managed to forge an unbreakable bond with the fans. It's not about statistics or goals, it's something else. It's that feeling you get when you see a 20-year-old player give his all for every contested ball. Camp Nou saw him born and vibrated with his character. When Gavi fell to the ground fighting, the entire stadium held its breath. When he got back up, the stands erupted in applause that needed no explanation. When he shouted at the referee over an unfair foul, the roar of support multiplied through 90,000 souls. That's a bond that can't be bought, not even with 1,000 million petrodollars. It's a bond that Guardiola could never replicate at the Etihad. Camp Nou rewards its own in a way no other stadium does. And Gavi, since he appeared in the first team, has understood what it means to wear this jersey. He didn't arrive on tiptoes, didn't beg for minutes, didn't wait patiently. He arrived and made his mark by throwing himself onto the grass, getting up with blood on his knee, and with a look that said, "I'm Barça, and I'll die on this pitch if I have to." That means more to the fans than any oriented control or the most precise pass. Modern football is full of players who produce highlights for social media, but what makes Gavi unique is that he connects directly with the most primal part of the cule audience. The pride of knowing someone defends the jersey as if it were their own skin. Moreover, now more than ever, as Barça goes through a period of transition with a stadium under renovation and inconsistent results, symbols become indispensable pillars. LAMINE may dazzle with his magic, PEDRI with his brain, Fermin with his newly discovered talent, but the one who embodies character, pride, and drive every weekend is Gavi, the 20-year-old leader. Imagine the void, imagine those stands deprived of the grinta that represents them so much. It's true, the Etihad is modern, luxurious, full of stars, but it could never replicate what a Sunday at Montjuic means, and what the triumphant return to the new Camp Nou will soon be. If Gavi stays, he'll know he's applauded not just for how he plays, but for existing as a living example of what it means to be cool. If he leaves, he'll never find the same thing. And that's the power of the fans, the power of Camp Nou, making its players feel eternal here, while elsewhere, they'll only ever be well-paid strangers. From Manchester City's perspective, we can't underestimate what recruiting Gavi would mean. For them, it would be a before and after in the post-De Bruyne era. The 2024-25 season left deep scars on Guardiola's club. They didn't win the Premier League, they exited the Champions League early, and for the first time in many years, doubts emerged about whether this glorious cycle had reached its ceiling. So what does Guardiola do? He reinvents himself, and part of that reinvention would involve stealing Barca's most combative jewel. For Pep, bringing in Gavi would mean many things at once. First, a basic footballing question. He needs young legs, a midfielder capable of winning 20 balls in a match and who also has the quality to circulate the ball with tactical discipline. In England, they've recruited talented profiles, yes, but what Gavi represents is a rare mix of teenage hunger and academic composure that only La Masia produces. No one in City's squad has that warrior spirit that turns a training session into a war. And Pep knows it. He needs it to dominate again. Secondly, what it would represent symbolically would be devastating for Barca. Imagine the headline, Guardiola recruits Gavi, emblem of the new Barcelona. It wouldn't just be a signing, it would be a declaration of hegemony, a message to the world that City is no longer content with buying established stars but is now able to tear symbols away from the most historic clubs. It would be the real triumph, proving that English money and Guardiola's aura can snatch away the heir to Puyol or Xavi. The impact in the Premier League would be brutal. Rodri and Gavi as a double pivot would be one of the most unstoppable engine rooms ever seen. Even more so with Holland waiting up front. Even more so with wingers capable of opening up spaces. Guardiola would have a perpetual engine, a pitbull who never drops his arms and who also understands positional play down to the millimeter. It's no coincidence that Pep wants him at all costs, because he's his own creation, his own mold reproduced years later. For English rivals, it would also be a psychological blow. Seeing City get their hands on Gavi would be like watching them armor themselves for another decade. And with one extra detail, in doing so, they'd be striking Barca where it hurts most. In other words, the signing would be both fuel for City and poison for Barca. Guardiola can recruit forwards, defenders, wingers, but Gavi doesn't belong to the market of interchangeable parts. He's much more. And the day City can showcase him in their squad, the media impact would be even greater than the footballing one. That's why he insists, that's why he dreams, because Guardiola knows stealing Gavi would be more than recruiting a star, it would be stealing the future, the essence, and the identity. Here, we're not just talking about football, we're talking about politics, management, and credibility. Joan Laporta, president who returned with the promise of saving the club's greatness, faces a trial by fire that transcends any spectacular signing. The battlefield isn't at Stamford Bridge or the Bernabeu. It's in his offices, where he'll have to resist the siege from Manchester City. Laporta has survived by overcoming catastrophic financial storms. He managed to retain LAMINE YAMAL by protecting him with a stratospheric clause. He rebuilt a team that was half destroyed after Messi's departure. But if he allows Gavi to leave, the entire narrative of defending Barca against the world would collapse, because there's no financial excuse or cash balance that justifies selling the gladiator of the future. Deco, the sporting director, isn't exempt either. He was brought in with the promise of betting on La Masia talent and integrating youngsters like Savaniva into the first team. If he fails in this defense, he won't just remain as an incapable manager but as a man who failed to recognize the cornerstone of a generation. History wouldn't forgive him. The financial pressure is real. Yes, the debt is still there. The league imposes limitations, and every operation is a financial headache. But there are cases that can't be reduced to numbers. Gavi is one of them. Selling him, even for a record amount, would be equivalent to admitting Barca has given up having its own soul and is content to be a showcase of talents for foreign millionaires. And that's the dangerous ground where Laporta can never give in. Barca needs Gavi, and Gavi needs Barca to be eternal, to be a legend, to be more than just a champion. Cool, it's time to raise your voice. Do you think Gavi would say yes to Pep Guardiola and Manchester City? Or will he always be Blaugrana at heart, a gladiator who would never turn his back on us? Leave it in the comments and let's show our pride.